Unfortunately, we live in a society where I say if you know how to doom porn, you'll get a lot of attention.
Well, I would say stay off YouTube unless you're going to listen to Logan, because that's where all the doom and gloom is hanging out, trying to make these crazy headlines.
How much of today's housing market is actually being driven by like consumer psychology versus actual economic fundamentals?
How many years did home prices fall nominally? Have we ever had a year where home prices fell 1%? No. So nominal home prices falling is very rare. So that's not going to happen. A lot of people believe in something what they call as a mortgage rate lockdown. Nobody's going to sell their house or nobody's going to buy. That's not true. We have more people with 6% plus mortgages than 3% and under now.
Get your Housing Wire subscription if you don't have it, so you can get into Housing Wire Intel. Because I use it. Lindsay, you see it every week. You're on my weekly kind of leadership.
I love your nerdy emails. Welcome back to the Better Together podcast. This is episode 5. We are going to be very positive on this episode. I'm going to start with this. Everywhere you look, the housing market is being described through tension. Rates are high, affordability is stretched, inventory shifting, buyers are cautious, sellers are trying to understand what their homes are really worth. But today, we're going to go deeper into the headlines. I'm going to call this like glass half full, maybe glass 3/4 full episode. We're going to dive into the data and what it's really telling us, what real estate professionals and loan officers should really be paying attention to, and how we are going to help our consumers make better decisions. So that brings me to our amazing guest today. First, a show regular, President and Chief Production Officer Dave Dickey. And we're also joined by Logan Mohtashami, who is the lead analyst for Housing Wire. He's a regular voice on their podcast, and some may even know him in the industry as Chart Daddy because of his ability to take incredibly complex data and make it understandable, which is a huge passion of mine. So I love a data nerd. You and I are definitely going to vibe on this. So I'm excited about that. So this is exactly what we need right now. You are two of the most positive people for this conversation. We're going to dig into the data. I'm really excited to welcome you guys both today. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
It is wonderful to be here.
Amazing.
It's good to
I
see
love
you
it.
both. Ready to kick off. This is a great way to, well, I don't know when this gets released, obviously in the second half of the year, but we just started the second half of the year.
Yeah.
So super excited. You're
Interesting first half of the year for sure. Like that's a really good tee. Like let's just use that to tee up the episode. So I kind of opened the episode with saying every headline is focused on what's wrong with housing. Let's just blame the media for what it is. Sometimes it's a little negative. I've read a lot of Logan's articles. I think he does a really good job of parsing through like what is the craze and like the juicy headlines, but also what's the reality. And there's a lot of good positive underlying notes there. So as we get into this, I'll kick off with both of you. What's the opportunity? Where do each of you both see the biggest opportunity in the back half of 2026?
Well, to me, the housing market actually shifted in mid-June of 2025. It's been a big part of my work for our podcast, for our weekly articles. My job is to show why. And unfortunately, we live in a society where I say if you know how to doom porn, you'll get a lot of attention. You might be totally 100% wrong, but it doesn't matter because we live in a society where if it kind of bleeds, it leads, and then it amplifies itself as like normal voice. My job as the Chart Daddy is to just basically talk about housing economics and economics every single day. And what occurred last year is that inventory growth was actually really good to start the year off. Affordability was getting a little bit better, but mortgage rates were on the verge of staying in the sixes for the first time in many years, just because of something we call mortgage spreads, which we'll go into a little bit later. And because of that, we made a call last year that the housing market's going to shift. Inventory growth is really going to slow down. Don't be shocked if inventory goes negative. That was not in anyone's, talking points. People were talking about inventory is about to explode, and you'd be crazy to buy a house. Home prices are about to fall. So you saw all these like data lines, but for 12 months, the data was trending positive. Like we had, the holidays, we had this epic snowstorm. But if you take some of those non-economic variables out of the equation, it's been a positive 12 months. Inventory growth was actually negative in our data lines nationally year over year. So housing is doing what it traditionally does at this point of the cycle, which is very positive. Affordability is getting better on its own. Mortgage rates are now, we started the year as the lowest rate curve in many years, and demand's going to grow a little bit more this year. And the backdrop for 2027 and 2028 and 2029 all look better now than what we saw during COVID when home prices were escalating out of control and active inventory was too low. So it's not even a glass three-fourths full. It is a glass full with a unbelievable
Flowing, Logan. The
water
glass is
water
overflowing.
tasting. It has all the electrolytes and everything we want because this is what you needed to occur for housing to have a better backdrop for growth for years and years. And it looks like every single housing cycle that I've seen, after the 1960s. So a positive backdrop, definitely for sure.
I hope that every Coldwell Banker Realty manager plays this little clip in their next sales meeting. So excellent. Every loan officer, every agent should listen to that. That is exactly why I was so excited to have you on. Right. And I'm the former head of PR at Coldwell Banker. So I haven't heard it bleeds, it leads in a while, but it was very refreshing to hear. And, I think the other job of the agents and the loan officers right now is to be a megaphone for what you're sharing, especially on social media. I think a lot of people are chasing the hype and the sensationalism, but being able to be so well versed in the actual reality of what's happening is the role that these trusted advisors should play on the side of the mortgage side and also the obviously the across from a listing a table. So I think that was great. Dave, what are you seeing? Where do you seeing as the biggest opportunity? I think that was great from Logan to kind of cue you up.
Yeah. Well, I would say stay off YouTube unless you're going to listen to Logan, because that's where all the doom and gloom is hanging out, trying to make these crazy headlines. And really, the opportunity, honestly, the opportunity is, and Logan just described an amazing backdrop, but the opportunity is the fact that we are human beings. And why I say that is most human beings have a negativity bias. And most human beings in our business, whether it's agents or loan officers, many are just still waiting for something else to happen to make business flood upon us. And what we've described is a very steady, great backdrop for a market, but you have to work the business. And so I think the opportunity is that we are, as human beings, the opportunity because most people won't put in a plan and the work to do it. There's still a lot of people waiting for something else to happen for business to again flood back on them. So opportunity is hopefully you already had a plan that you wanted to achieve in 2026. But if you didn't, you got a chance now. Make sure your plan is really good. You've built out exactly what you want to get done in the back half of the year. I would even start to plan in how that looks because of our seasonality ride, how that looks going into the first half of the year. And then, really, for the audience that's here, real estate agents, loan officers, the opportunities get together more often. They too far along. We've operated almost in two different. We think of ourselves in two different arenas. So one's working real estate, one has the mortgage, and really we're all trying to achieve the same thing. And so there's so many activities you can do together. So I would say as you build your individual plan, know what your top dollar producing activities are. Again, that's an opportunity for human beings. Most won't stop to even do that. We'll spend more time planning vacation than we spend planning our business sometimes. And so get that down and then sit down together and share those ideas because what you'll find as a real estate agent and as a loan officer, many of those activities overlap and you can actually, I call them better together activities. Do figure out what you could do together so that you're not just doing business together, you're actually growing business together. That's the opportunity. You guys, I'm telling you, and the beautiful thing is we live together in this joint venture inside the offices. So you have an opportunity better than most agents, better than most loan officers in the business to do exactly what I described.
We're actually in the office
We
together.
are. We're roomies.
Logan, I don't know if you have done what Dave and I have done, but we have asked our AI of choice what they'd like to be called. So I have Lex, he has Jarvis. We have conversations that span literally the entire length of the day. So one, I'll just ask you, have you named your AI?
Oh, call me Iron Man.
Iron Man. Okay, perfect. So, Dave, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking that Jarvis and Lex can probably create like a better together checklist for these maybe mid-year meetings. I think that would be a really good thing that you and I can take on, and maybe we can that out to the field and say your goal is to have one of these better together meetings with better together activities. But I think that's a really good push. This JV is very unique in that we do share the same office space. So I think that's a wonderful, actionable way to take kind of your advice and to put it into motion for the back half of the year. I love that. All right,
Well, and I'll add
Logan.
this to your
Oh
point.
yeah, please.
I did that this morning
Of course you
with
did.
our, so of course I use it, chat, I use them all. But we also have a double your business AI coach inside our suite of AI. And so I asked it. So I'll be on this podcast. We talk about better together activities. I gave it the list I already had. I said, now we're heading into the back half of the year. What are some things you would add to this list? And I got an amazing list, and I'll just name a few. So, growing business together. So, host for this, so everybody listening, you can take some of these, but Lindsay, I'm with you. Let's get a full list out for people to like sit down and see if that works inside their relationship. But see, these are things we often do separate. Hold education webinars together, host first time buyer seminars together, right? These are things we often do separate. And then as a loan officer, we're sort of like, I'll do a really good job, just get me the lead. And but you can actually do these things together, create the two words I've been using a lot lately are visibility and value. So be very visible, bring lots of value, do these things together. How about who sends monthly mortgage or monthly market updates or even weekly? Do those together. Who calls their database out there? We all should, by the way. We probably don't enough. I know we get busy, especially this time of year, but why don't we do it together? So look at the activities, and then maybe when you make your list, this is kind of fun. We'll send out a list, but create your own list of high dollar producing activities, and then just add the word together at the end of it, and say, who could I do that with? And that's going to be your GRA loan officer.
Like it. I like it. We're gonna get on that. All right, Logan, let's talk about psychology versus like actual economic fundamentals. So we think about everything from fear versus confidence to rate expectations. In your opinion, how much of today's housing market is actually being driven by like consumer psychology versus actual economic fundamentals? I think you kind of teased this a little bit earlier, but let's dive deeper into what you're seeing, data versus maybe just like people's emotions.
So when we look at the history of housing economics, millions of people buy homes every single year. They bought homes in 2008. They bought homes during COVID. They bought homes during wars. So we're not complicated people. We rent, we date, we mate, we get married 3.5 years after marriage. We have kids. We buy single family homes. We've been doing this post World War II. It's not shocking. So oddly enough, even with existing home sales being as low as it's been the last few years, we still have near 5 million total home sales. The peak in the last decade when mortgage rates were 3.25% to 5% for 10 years, was around 6 million. So you're missing 750 to a million, really roughly mortgage buyers to that. That's with affordability being very short. Affordability was actually worse in the early 1980s because home prices grew faster actually back then in the late 70s, even though mortgage rates went from 8 to 13%. So affordability is getting better. So this explains why housing demand, if you take the snowstorm out of the equation this year, sales would have been even a little bit better. Looks normal to me with where affordability is. But because price growth is cooling down, wages are outpacing home prices, affordability is getting a little bit better on its own that you could kind of see the light on the end of the tunnel. Just to give everyone an example, if we want to go back to long-term affordability, one of these three things have to happen. Wages have to increase 19%. That's not going to happen in a year. Okay, wages are up 3.5. No, no,
I'm kidding.
wages not
I could take
that.
a 19% raise. I wouldn't mind it.
Yeah, everyone will love that. Home prices have to fall 16%. In the history of home prices, one of the things I've done, this is my 34th speaking event of the year. The Chart Daddy Nerd Tour is the number one housing show in America because everyone gets to learn because we make it fun. We make the charts very easy to understand. We make it fun. But if I took 1942 to 2026, if I take 2007 and 11 out of the equation, which was a once in a lifetime event, how many years did home prices fall nominally? Like, have we ever had a year where home prices fell 1%? No. So nominal home prices falling is very rare. So that's not going to happen. But affordability has slowly gotten better so much that if mortgage rates just got to 5% by itself, long-term affordability is back to normal. And that's because Yeah, that's because inventory has grown, price growth has cooled down. This is the history of housing economics. This we see these trends actually often. And when you have a big price surge, oddly enough, the biggest home price period post World War II was 1943 to 1947. And BlackRock wasn't buying homes back then. It was the World War II inflation push. But what we're seeing now is the stages of growth. So I think what shocked a lot of people is because a lot of people thought inventory, this is the year where inventory really explodes and rates are going to stay high. And and it was the complete opposite. Inventory last week per our data is negative slightly year over year. Our forward-looking demand data has been pretty much positive outside the snowstorm and holidays for 12 months now. And now we're at a point to where you don't even need rates to get down to 5%. Just staying in the sixes could promote growth, and it's promoting growth without home prices escalating out of control. So next year's backdrop is going to be better. Just like last year, I talked about the backdrop for growth is actually going to be here in 2026, and that's normal. So there's a lot of things that are said, but it's not what people are actually acting on. Millions and millions of people are buying homes every single week or every single year. And what we're seeing is a lot of people believe in something what they call as a mortgage rate lockdown. Nobody's going to sell their house or nobody's going to buy. That's not true. We have more people with 6% plus mortgages than 3% and under now. So this is very normal housing economic behavior. It doesn't get talked about this way because it's not the most sexiest thing. Okay. Economics done right should be very boring. Right. I love my economic friends. I love they're all wonderful people, but they talk about housing or economics in such a boring way. You lose people in 7 seconds now. You do not have a lot of attention span. So my job every single day on Instagram, always on our podcast, is to show the data and show people, connect the dots, be the detective, not the troll. And I could explain why demand is picking up a little bit and why inventory isn't really growing and price growth is very stable right now, because this is how housing economics has worked for decades and decades and decades.
I think we should label this podcast title "Be the Detective, Not the Troll." That is like such a great little
Yes,
one-liner. I love
I,
that.
I I have a lot of Loganisms over the
I
years,
love
and that's
Loganisms. Also,
that's
drop your Instagram in case someone's not following you.
Logan Mohtashami, my name, Logan, last name Mohtashami, Mohtashami. They call me the chart daddy because I got lots of charts.
I love it. So then let me ask both of you a question. I think what Logan said is great. Everybody should hear it. But there is current and future competition in pricing because of pent-up demand. So a lot of buyers are still waiting for rates to come down. What does history tell us when everyone's waiting for that same moment? Like, what's your prediction? I know you guys don't have a crystal ball, but like, what does this look like moving into 2027 as everybody's kind of waiting for this like moment in time?
So when we look at economics, every single time when sales have a lull, and then when rates do make a next leg lower, every single time sales go vertical. So I like to talk about this housing market like I talked about in the early 1980s, even though I was 6 years old then. Um, Affordability was terrible. There were two recessions back then. People said nobody's going to buy a house. Everyone's going to be a renter, and both times in the early 1980s when both recessions happened, rates went lower, sales went vertical. We're not talking a slow moving grind, which just went vertical in a time where housing was even less affordable and a recession was happening and there was a lot of more inventory and the credit data was worse. So if rates do make another leg lower, history, it says demand picks up, right? And because of that, because sales have been low for so long, you start to see not only a sales pickup, but pricing tends to pick up in that environment. And we have decades and decades and decades of data to show this. And the thing now is we have five generations of home buyers here, right? We have the silent generation still buying homes. Gen Z is buying homes right now. The baby boomers are buying homes. The millennials are the biggest housing demographic patch ever recorded. And then there's the greatest generation of all time, Gen X, right? They're the second biggest home buyers. So you have five generation of home buyers. You have over 162 million people working, right? If affordability is already getting better, when the next leg lower in rates, and I'm just talking just mid fives, low fives, I'm not talking 3 or 4%. Demand tends to pick up when mortgage rates went from 18 to 16% in the early 1980s, demand picked up. When it went from 16 to 13% with affordability, whereas demand picked up out there. So history just basically shows us when you have a lull and the next leg lower and rates shoot up. And remember, if rates just got back to 5% without wages or anything going insane, affordability is back to its long-term trend.
I know you said Gen X is the best. I'm going to vote for the millennials, but that's okay. Let's talk about Gen Z for a second, and then I want to hear about Dave's opinion on this question. But big news about Gen Z just yesterday. I think that the news broke that like they had their biggest capture rate of mortgage in like the history of ever for their generation. Didn't
Yes,
that just come out yesterday?
yeah, Gen Z is young in its home buying a period in time. So we buy homes a little bit later in life, right? People get married a little bit later. So naturally, as they get older, they start to buy. There's actually more Gen Z workers than baby boomers now, right? So the benefits of the United States of America versus China, Europe, or Japan. Like, for example, Gen Z and millennials together are bigger than the total population of Japan. Like Japan's
Goodness.
40% of Japan's population will be dead by the end of the century. They sell more adult diapers than baby diapers. So they are in a demographic cliff. We, on the other hand, we have a lot of young people still working, right? So young people buy homes with mortgages, they have families, they have kids. So it's not shocking that Gen Z is picking up just because they are a big demographic patch as well, but they're still at the younger age where the millennials, elder millennials are actually buying, not yourself, you're still a younger millennial, but elder millennials are buying their second homes or selling their starter home to buy another house. So it makes sense just by the demographic push that they are actually a bigger workforce than the baby boomers right now.
Super interesting. Dave, let me ask you a question. So we talked about this being like glass pouring, overflowing with good news. If you were coaching one of your LOs who's maybe discouraged right now, today, in this moment, what would you tell them to focus on over the next maybe like 90 days as they prepare? Hopefully, they already had a plan of action for this year, but maybe back half of this year, moving into 27.
Well, go get that 19% raise. It's within your grasp. That's the beautiful thing about our industry.
Yes, that's
Real
true.
estate. Or we can do our activities and our mindset to overcome kind of this cautionary bias that we tend to have. Got probably baked into our DNA from when we needed it to protect ourselves from rustling in the bushes, and we didn't know what that was. So we tend to take everything with a little bit of fear. But yeah, go get the raise. But when I say that, one of the things that top agents and top loan officers have in common that they've all told me over the last 3 years now, I guess it's been, they're busier than they were in 20 and 2021. And they're busier working on their business. They were busy before, like it's almost like certainly in mortgage with a heavy refi too. We were taking orders as fast as we could. But this is busier. That's right. Yeah.
In beginning of the pandemic, and then I refinanced with you guys within 6 months. I got really lucky.
It was good timing.
Very good
Yeah.
time.
And
Well,
so
I was having my twins, which was like godsend. So yes.
that's perfect. Yeah. Well, thank you. And by the way, we have I have to say, Lindsay, and then so many others out there. I want to thank personally for your business. I am a salesperson, so after this, I will be taking applications. I'll drop my phone number in here. They can reach out to me after they listen to this. But because there's a tremendous amount of loyalty within a Colt Banker and GRA, I really do appreciate it. But yeah, I would just say, and the other thing is, get after using AI to get better, smarter. Actually, hold on a second. I'll grab it. There's a great book I'm going to recommend. Show and
No.
tell. 'Cause I thought Logan was going to sneak in a chart, so I had to have
Last
something.
episode, it was the mug. What's your show and tell this episode?
Book.
Nice.
If you haven't read this book yet, you want to read it. Yeah. Is it backwards for you guys or is it just backwards for me? Okay, good. Yeah. So the next Renaissance. But talking, this guy was Zach Cass was part of OpenAI from the beginning, and he's talking about, again, I guess it goes back to this cautionary bias that we have that we tend to freeze, and so we miss opportunities. We just talked about the opportunities to freeze right now, waiting for rates, and you miss an opportunity for wealth creation. Congratulations to Gen Z. They're smarter than the rest of us. So that's awesome to get in and start buying homes and assets early. But with I think there's still far too many people. We're starting to use it. I think I'm finding more and more people, but there's still a lot of worry. There's like nobody, I don't know that we're spending enough time developing. So, in other words, here's one application you could use is go ahead and work on your what you want to achieve back half of this year. Go ahead and get all of your activities that you know if you do these activities, you will grow your business, and then put that into your AI to develop your full plan for the rest of the year. And it can help because to do that on our own before we could do it, it took work and it actually took deep work and you had to sit and you had time. But AI can help speed that up and actually give you insights that you might not have, picked up yourself. And then I would say, it goes back to this better together thing. Work. Don't just do business with your partners. Look for ways to grow business. But this word I want you to take away for the back half of the year is how can you amplify? So this would be you're certainly probably thinking about, well, how do I amplify my own brand, my visibility and value? But I want you to think about how you could do that together. So how could you amplify loan officer agents together? How can you amplify each other? I'm seeing a lot of that on social media, starting to see more and more joint activities on social, right? Podcasts. I'm seeing wow, who's doing Dan Lally. You probably found
It's
he's
awesome. Love
doing a
that man.
great job. So
Yeah.
consistent. He's got real estate agents on,
Yeah.
and they're again, that's a way to amplify each other. So listen, this is Logan gave an amazing backdrop. There's no reason to wait for anything. Sure, rates dropped to 5. Heck, when rates dropped to 6, we were really, really busy. And so rates drop to 5, you're off to the races. But go ahead and build that now. I think I'll give this advice to the loan officers. It's very competitive. Same with real estate agents, but loan officers very competitive across the landscape for pricing. So work with work with GRA. Get as sharp as you possibly can your pricing, and think long term. Don't think about what am I winning or losing today. Think about what are my activities today, and then how those compound. Another great book, Compounding Effect. How that compounds over the next year, 2, 5, 10. And so you think about pricing really sharp. You want to do as many deals as you possibly can to create new relationships that create additional relationships versus, there's a mindset out there still. The loan officers day was real prevalent when I was a loan officer. Everybody wanted to make as much money as you could in a single transaction. And they weren't really thinking about building a database, building relationships that ultimately compound and snowball together. So, anyway, a lot of stuff there, but it's exciting. It's the back half of the year. Again, human beings, there are a lot of people waiting. Don't wait, get busy together, and go take market share together.
Love that. One more question for Logan, and then we're gonna have a wrap up question. You may be the chart daddy. I am the dashboard mommy. I love a good dashboard for my team with as many data points as I could collect. So, if you were to coach an agent or a loan officer, maybe together, if they could create like the ultimate GRA Coldwell Banker Realty dashboard, what are some of the data points you think they should be super focused on right now to build into that dashboard?
So the White House comes to us, the Federal Reserve comes to us, the Conference Board, which created the World Bank and Wall Street, they all come to us because of our data line is very fresh. We have a weekend tracker that gives everybody an updated version of what's happening in housing now and months ahead. We're like 3 or 4 months ahead of the NAR and 6 months ahead of the Case-Shiller. But what we've done in Housing Wire now, we've opened the books for everyone, right? If you have a Housing Wire subscription, you can go to your own local city, zip code, state, or whatever, and get the data lines that I track on our weekend tracker. So a few data points that we focus on. We have an active inventory list. It's the homes that come onto the market that do not have a contract. These are inventory. This gives you an idea of what's happening in your local area. I talk about the national stuff every weekend and on our podcast. Then there's their new listings data. Our new listings data is very key. These are the homes that come onto the market that don't have a contract that are new, right? These are not like the active inventory. During the housing bubble crisis here, Mike Simonson, who's now the economist for Compass, he went to Goldman Sachs And he went to Lehman Brothers in 2007, told Lehman Brothers, hey guys, we have a way of tracking housing that's a little bit different. And we think housing's breaking. And Lehman Brothers laughed at him and said, we don't know who you are. He walked in the same conference to Goldman Sachs, told them Goldman Sachs took the information, shorted the housing market, and made $10 billion. So the new listings data, if this was breaking, the housing market was authentically breaking, this data line would break on you. So that's another key data line to track. We have something called the price cut percentage. 1/3 of all homes in America have price cuts year round. It's very normal, but the price cut percentages tells you how the pricing is going. I talk about the national data. You can do it in any city, state, zip code with the housing. Those are three main inventory and data lines that help realtors out there. And then also we talk about mortgage spreads, right? Because mortgage spreads is something that's very, very nerdy. Not a lot of people talk about. That's the difference between the 10-year yield and 30-year mortgage. Why is it so important? If mortgage spreads didn't improve, mortgage rates would have been over 7% the entire year. It would be closer to 8% if this was 2023. So my thing about the last few years is mortgage spreads tend to get better now. So you could have a lower rate environment. We bring that in our weekly tracker. We talk about the 10-year yield every single weekend. We give everyone an idea for loan officers what to think about. What is the realistic outlook on rates? We don't want to be the same person that says, oh, rates are going to go to 5% because we're going into a recession. Oh, no. That hasn't done anybody any good in the last. So we take the history of housing economic data and economics in general and find a way where Fed policy, which really drives mortgage rates, where can rates realistically go? And we update that every single week. We talk about that so everybody knows what's happening today and what's going to happen 2 months from now because our data is forward looking. And this way, you're already ahead of 99.99% of the people on planet Earth. And that's our dashboard and tracker data that we show to everyone. And we talk about the national data, but you can do this for your local area. I think that's the advantage, and that's what people like. They don't like to wait for old, stale data. They want to get the information. And of course, what's happening in New Jersey is different than Florida. What's happening in Florida is different than Austin. Austin is different than what's happening in Montana. We break them all out in all the zip codes and all the cities. So everyone is up to date in not only your area, but also how general economics works.
If you are not following Logan before this podcast, you better be following him after this one because he is a wealth of knowledge. I could listen to you for 5 more hours. I would love to actually. So maybe we could have you back on the podcast for another round because this has been amazing. Before we wrap up, guys, my takeaway from you guys is not about ignoring the obstacles. It's about understanding them better than anyone else, which that's why we have this partnership between Coldwell Banker, GRA, but also our friends in the industry like you, Logan. I think that is the key of making sure that we don't ignore it, that we embrace it, we understand it. That way we can help our consumers make better decisions with clarity, confidence, just better guidance. With that as a thought, any final thoughts before we wrap up of a message to our agents and our loan officers as we close out back half of the year?
Just remember that the housing market shifted in mid-June. If you were not listening to somebody who told you that, then change the channel because you need to get the real-time information. So now people are shocked. Why are sales up? Why is inventory down? Follow people that have models, data. The best antidote for fear is data. Show it to them. Make the charts simple. Be the knowledgeable expert that you're supposed to be and go with it. If it's negative, the data will be negative. But if it's positive, then think about the last year that people were listening to people that said, oh my God, inventory is going to skyrocket. Nobody's going to buy a house. Home prices are going to crash. Now, where is everyone at? Right? You have your choice to be the expert for your clientele, but give your clients the better information so they can make choices so you can work faster and smarter. You don't want to waste too much time trying to convince somebody that you can't without data. So this is why every person needs one good nerdy friend. Let the chart daddy be your nerdy friend so you could be a better loan officer and real estate agent.
Well, you're my new nerdy friend, so you have one new friend at least.
That's
Dave, you want
awesome.
to take us home?
That's awesome. Well, get your Housing Wire subscription if you don't have it, so you can get into Housing Wire intelligence, right? Because I use it. Lindsay, you see it every week. You're on my weekly kind of leadership.
I love your nerdy emails.
Newsletter.
Love 'em.
A lot of the charts and data are coming right out of there.
Yeah.
And then I would just say, so loan officers, but do exactly what Logan said. So real estate agents too. I listen to Logan's podcast. I go to Housing Wire Intelligence. And I do that really efficiently. So mostly, Logan, I'm working out, as you can tell, when I'm listening to your podcast. But so I stay educated. I take down things that I need. I have a newsletter that gives me, you know, data talking points as I'm working with loan officers and real estate agents, and then I move. Right? Too many people are like, we're checking. I find myself do it sometimes. We're checking like 10-year Treasury, and mortgage backs like 10 times a day. Did it move yet? Did it move yet? We're waiting for something to move. Just get educated, help educate, and then go get busy and focus less on your results right now, what's happening, wins and losses in the results, and focus on your activities and go take it to the next step and take it to the better together activities. So now, where can these activities work for me? What can we do to overlap and make a leapfrog over our competitors?
Love a good leapfrog. This was an awesome episode. It had all of my favorite things: real estate, mortgage, positivity, good vibes, a lot of nerdiness, which, is has a big place in my heart. So, and for all of our loyal Better Together listeners, we have a special deal from the chart daddy himself. Logan, what do you have?
And just for everyone, my name is Logan Mohtashami. You can follow me on Instagram and a lot of social media sites. Our Housing Wire Daily podcast is one of the top 20 business news podcasts in America. But for you to get the data so you can be your own chart daddy or dashboard mommy out there, use the discount code podcast20 on Housing Wire. Get your subscription. Go to Housing Wire Intelligence. Read how I talk about economics on the weekend tracker, but you can do it. All the data lines that we talked about today, you can get access to your any inventory, pricing, weekly pending sales, total pending home sales. All this data line can be at your fingertips, and you'll be months ahead of your competition. Podcast 20, Housing Wire Intelligence. All of you could be nerdy like me.
Mr. Chart Daddy himself, Logan, thank you so much for all your insights. Dave Dickey, who's been my very good friend all year long on this podcast, always a pleasure. I think this episode will be coming out really soon, so everybody will get a really good advantage to have this for almost the entire back half of the year. Thank you very much. If you haven't subscribed to our blog, I'm sorry, not our blog, our podcast, yes, please do so. And we will see you again very soon. Thanks, guys.
Pleasure to be
Thanks,
here. Thank
everybody.
you.
Good to see you guys.